In which project should InfraFund invest? So you know how this goes. I'm going to show you a case question, and I'm not going to give you an answer for that. If you want, you can try drawing a structure for it, but I'm going to jump straight into a chart interpretation question, and then you're going to do your answer for that, and then you're going to listen to mine and compare. Remember to follow the three-step approach when you draft your answer for the case for the chart interpretation question. All right, let's go. So the case question is, your client is a fund focused on infrastructure concessions, such as ports, airports, and highway operations in an European country. The country is currently starting 8 new concessions of operations of ports, airports, and highways, and InfraFund must decide in which ones they want to invest. What factors would you consider when helping them with this decision? So this is the case question, the question you'd get in the beginning of the case from the interviewer. Of course, he could have asked you a chart interpretation question right at the start, but this was not the case in this specific interview. So after you've answered and said everything you thought in your structure, in your examples, in your issues, the interviewer said, okay, that's very interesting. Now take a look at this exhibit and tell me what you think. And so this is the exhibit he showed you. Think about your answer for a while. Take your time for this and do the best answer possible, and only then listen to mine. So what I can see here is that we have 8 projects lined up, and we have 6 different characteristics for all of them. So we have the investment in millions of dollars, the length of the project, the expected ROIC, and in this specific moment, I'd ask the interviewer, what does ROIC mean? I know what ROIC means because I studied business, but if you don't, that would be completely fine. And the interviewer would answer you, that means return over invested capital. So this is the rate of return of your money in this project. Okay, that's interesting. Now, then we have and then I see NPV there. And there are 2 things telling me that there is explanation for that. So before asking, I'll look at what those explanations are. And it tells me that the weighted average cost of capital is 8%, and the net present, and that NPV means net present value of projects' expected cash flows, except for investment. So what I understand is this NPV column is the return in dollars today, in present dollars, of my investment. So if I subtract that from the investment, I would get actually what money I'm getting from this project in today's money. And then I have political risk, and the first thing that comes to my mind is, how do you measure that? And then I look at the legends there, and it tells me chances of contract being overridden or cancelled due to political reasons without proper compensation, according to political risk advisor. So the person who's telling me this is our political risk advisor, and he's categorizing it into low, medium, or high. Okay, and then I see type of concession, so whether this project is an airport, a port, or a highway. And then I have a little table that tells us our current portfolio. So we have 8 airports, 7 ports, and 1 highway. Okay. Now the way I would look at this is, I'd first exclude all projects with a rate of return lower than 8%, than our average cost of capital, because that's definitely not going to work for me. I'd rather not get this money from my investors, if that were the case. So projects B and D are out. And then I would come up with a different column that's, since I want to make money in this venture, I want to draw a column with the money that I'm going to make. So I'm going to take my NPV and I'm going to subtract my investment from that. So in project A, I'd get 7.3. Then project C, I'd get 12.5. Project E, I'd get 11.2. On project F, 3, and 6.5. And now I want to use this column to prioritize. Of course, there's one thing I would like to notice here, and that is if I have cash restrictions, then my prioritization would be different than if I don't have cash restrictions. Because let's say the only thing I'm looking at is the money that I'm gonna make. Um, if I have $12 million to invest only, I would like to invest in projects E and H, for example, because that would give me almost 18 million in return in today's dollars. But if I only have 10, then I would rather invest only in project C, because that would give me 12.5 million in return. So if I have cash restrictions, my prioritization would be different. I'd ask the interviewer in this case, do we have cash restrictions or do we know about anything like that? And I'm going to assume that we don't have cash restrictions. We can raise as much money as we need. And I'm going to keep prioritizing based on that. So my initial prioritization would be based on this column, the money I'm going to make. But I also want to take into account the political risk and the type of concession. And so I'm going to take those that are close, projects that are close. So like C and E are fairly close in money that I'm going to make. A and H are fairly close, and F and G are fairly close. And I'm going to look at their political risk and at the type of concession. Because, political risk is obvious. Type of concession, it might be that I'd rather do projects that are closer to what I'm currently doing, because those would be probably less risky and more easy to manage. So first, project C and E, I can see that they have, project C has a high political risk and project E has a low political risk. So to me, this says I'd rather do project E than C, probably, but I need to understand deeply what this political risk means. So like, what does high and low political risk means? Does it mean that project E has a 1% chance of being overridden or cancelled and project C has a 5%? Or does it mean that project E has virtually no chance and project C has a 50% chance? Because that's definitely going to determine whether I want to do project C at all or not. If a high political risk means a relatively high chance, then that's okay. But if it means a really high chance of project being cancelled, then I'd rather not do it at all. But anyway, then I'd look at type of concession. One of them is an airport, the other one is a port. I have several airports and ports, so I wouldn't take this one into consideration. But I'd go with project E as my first and project C as my second, as long as a high political risk doesn't mean a really high political risk or a lot of work, as long as I'm not good at dealing with political risk. Now let's look at projects A and H. So they both have a medium political risk, so I'm not going to take this into consideration right now. And they're both airports and ports. One of them is an airport, the other one's a port. I have several of both, so I'm not really going to take that into consideration. So I'm just going to look again at my money, actually my actual return in today's money column. And I'm going to see that project A will give me a 7.3 return and project H 6.5. So project A is third, project H is fourth. Now to decide which one's fifth and which one's sixth of F and G, I'm going to notice that they both have low political risks. So, okay, doesn't really matter. They both give me a $3 million return. So I'm not going to take that much into account too. But one of them is an airport and the other one is a highway. And to me, this would initially say, do the airport, because it's something you already have expertise on. But I need to make sure that I don't have a strategy that tells me that I want to do more highway projects. And if that's the case, then I might want to do the highway one first, because that might help me get into other projects later on. That might help me gather expertise, and that might help me, how do I say, build some scale in highways so that next projects will be even more profitable. And so my conclusion is that F would be the fifth project and G would be the sixth, as long as I don't have a strategy that tells me that I want to do highway projects first. And well, next steps here would be necessarily looking at what does political risk actually means, so that I want to know if this high political risk project C is something that I really want to do, or if it's actually something that I want to drop. I'd look at whether we have cash restrictions or not, because if we do, then prioritization might be slightly different. And third, I would try and understand if I have a strategy behind my fund that might tell me that I want to go into more highway projects right now. And the interviewer is going to say, okay, this is all very interesting. It's interesting that you mentioned that InfraFund has fewer investments in highway concessions. What do you think they should be concerned about when funding a new highway operation project? So pay attention to this. This is a follow-up question to the chart interpretation question. And this can happen. This happens fairly often. So I'm going to give you an answer to this one. Try first creating your own answer for this. And so to me, the main concerns are if my investment analysis is missing something, and maybe the reality is going to be very different from my analysis. And my second concern would be whether I'm able to contribute with relevant experience. I'm probably not as able to contribute with relevant experience as in other projects in airports and highways. And things that my investment analysis could be missing, that I could be overlooking, are revenue risks, like chances of a new railway reducing highway traffic or something like that, or maybe even some cities along the way losing their economic relevance, and so we suddenly have less traffic because of that. Not suddenly, like slowly, but it will turn out project will turn out different than we expected. There could be cost risks, so maybe there's need for different maintenance. There's different need for maintenance. So maybe we'll spend more money because of the soil type or because of the weather or something, that because of lacking the expertise for this, I overlooked that. Or maybe I have wrong assumptions. So maybe, for example, let's say the demand for area to build gas station stores is not as inelastic as expected. So prices for those areas can't increase as much as I expected. So in the end, I'll have less revenues than I imagined. And being unable to contribute with relevant experience would mean that I wouldn't be able to see cost reduction opportunities that I would in other projects, like, for example, optimization of maintenance process. And I would miss revenue increase opportunities, like good ideas on how to make area for gas stations, stores, etc. more attractive. And those are my real main concerns. But honestly, I can see them being solved by either hiring a team that has expertise in highway projects, and I might need to poach them from other funds and or other regions maybe. And I would do that if I have plans to stay and do more highway projects, not only one, but also if I plan on doing only one, I could simply get another fund that does have this expertise in highways and have them fund part of the project with us. So we'd fund part of it, the other fund would also fund part of it, and they could contribute with the missing expertise. But I still might want to hire a consultant or for highway projects just to help me with my investment analysis, because I can't use investment analysis from other funds because we're both interested parties in this deal. All right. Well, this was my answer for this drill. Compare it to yours If your answer is slightly different, but it's still containing the elements that HR interpretation answer needs, then you're fine. And I'll see you in the next video.